Hello, and welcome back to Financial Alien, the channel where we look at the world of money from a different dimension. Today, we're landing right here in Nairobi, Kenya, to tackle an issue that's on everyone's mind, the relentlessly high cost of living. Forget the political headlines for a moment. Recent surveys show that for everyday Kenyans, the number one worry isn't politics. It's household survival. It's about making ends meet in a city that feels increasingly expensive. We're going to break down why Nairobi feels so expensive, what's driving these costs, especially when it comes to housing, and what it means for the people trying to build a life here, particularly the younger generation. If you're interested in understanding the real economic forces shaping our cities and our lives, make sure you subscribe to Financial Alien. We're all about cutting through the noise to see the bigger picture. So just how big is this problem? According to a recent InfoTrack survey, the high cost of living is the absolute top concern for Kenyans nationwide, cited by 40% of people. That's followed closely by unemployment at 30%. And it's not just a feeling, it's a worsening reality. A staggering 79% of Kenyans believe the cost of living is higher now than it was just a year ago, with 70% rating it as high or very high. While this affects the whole country, the pressure is particularly intense here in Nairobi, a dynamic, growing metropolis of 5 million people. So, let's zoom in on the biggest expense for most Nairobians, putting a roof over their heads. Nairobi is one of Africa's most dynamic cities, but it's also one of its most expensive, especially when it comes to housing. For the younger generation, Gen Z, who are now entering adulthood and looking for independence, the dream of getting their own place often crashes against a wall of unaffordability. Consider this, the average monthly salary in Nairobi hovers around KSH 76,000 dirhams to KSH 82,000. That's roughly $590 to $640 US dollars. But decent housing in accessible neighborhoods often consumes a huge chunk of that. Real estate reports show rental costs can eat up 40% to 60% of middle-class incomes. This forces a tough choice. Live in a small, potentially cramped apartment closer to the city centre and job opportunities, or move further out to find more space and lower rent, sacrificing convenience and commute time. Take the story of Geena, a 26-year-old chef. She wanted her own place but found that apartments within her budget inside Nairobi were tiny, often lacking sunlight and located in overcrowded buildings. So, she chose to move to Kiambu, about an hour outside the city. Her rent there is KSH 16,124, significantly less than what she'd pay in the city, and she gets more space and cleaner air. Geena's story isn't unique. It reflects a wider trend. The high cost of living forces young Nairobians to make significant trade-offs. Moving out often means cutting back drastically on discretionary spending. No more impulse buys, fewer nights out. It requires disciplined sacrifice and often relying on help from family and friends just to furnish a basic apartment. And let's not forget the bigger picture. Nearly 60% of Nairobians live in informal settlements, covering just 5% of the city's land area. For many, even a modest rental like Geena's is completely out of reach. Now, adding another layer of complexity are external factors that could push costs even higher. There's been talk of major UN agencies like UNICEF potentially relocating their headquarters from expensive Western cities to Nairobi by 2026. This promises to boost Nairobi's status as a global hub. potentially bringing jobs and investment. Upscale neighborhoods near the UN complex like Runda, Muthaiga, and Kitisuru, sometimes called the Beverly Hills of Nairobi, are already gearing up, fast-tracking construction of high-end housing, restaurants, and international schools. But what's the potential downside for the average resident? An influx of potentially 2,000 well-paid international staff could pour gasoline on the fire of the already strained housing market. Experts predict this could lead to a significant increase in rental prices, particularly for long-term rentals in desirable areas. One estimate suggests a 10–15% rental price hike by 2026, driven by developers specifically targeting UN staff with new expensive gated communities. We're already seeing sharp rent increases in areas near the UN, like Ruaka. Rentals that cost around $155 last year are now going for over $380, fueled by infrastructure improvements and proximity. This gentrification pushes out long-term residents and makes these areas unaffordable for the average Kenyan. It highlights a stark contrast. While billions are potentially being invested in facilities and housing for the international community, many local residents living just kilometers away, like Agnes Karimi in Githogoro slum, lack basic necessities like electricity for their small businesses. There's a real fear that the economic benefits of such moves won't trickle down, further deepening the divide between the haves and have-nots. So we've seen the impact, especially on housing, but what do Kenyans themselves believe are the root causes of this high cost of living? Taxation, 40%. This is the number one reason cited. There's a strong perception that high taxes are the main driver, pushing up prices for everyone. The government is under pressure to either revise its tax strategy or show much better results from the taxes collected. Global economic issues, 19%. Factors beyond Kenya's borders, like fuel prices and supply chain disruptions, are also seen as major contributors. Government policies, 16%. Specific domestic policies are blamed by a significant portion of the population. Corruption, 14%. Kenyans clearly link poor governance and graft directly to their economic hardships. Lack of employment, 6%. High unemployment means fewer people earning enough to keep up with rising prices, adding to the overall economic strain. These factors, taxes, global pressures, policy choices, corruption, and unemployment, create a perfect storm that makes life increasingly difficult for the average Nairobian. Nairobi is a city of incredible energy and potential, but right now it's caught in a painful squeeze. The high cost of living, driven primarily by unaffordable housing and compounded by high unemployment, taxation, and other factors, is pushing people to the brink. Stories like Geena's show the difficult choices young Kenyans face, trading convenience for affordability, often feeling isolated from the city's opportunities. And potential developments like the UN expansion carry both the promise of growth and the peril of increased inequality if not managed carefully. Understanding these dynamics is crucial, whether you're trying to navigate your personal finances, invest intelligently, or simply make sense of the economic world around you. That's what we aim to do here at Financial Alien, provide clarity from a different perspective. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. Let's keep exploring the financial universe together. Thanks for watching.